I want to talk about things that are underrated in the history of science. Uh, Science, obviously, the word is so famous today. Every single child is mandated to learn about it since primary schools. And we all know the main core branches of science is the three empirical sciences: physics, chemistry, and biology. And of course, actually, geology is one of the it's actually one of the four core sciences along them, but people generally ignore it. What are underrated in the history of science? Okay, first of all, um, I myself generally feel that for each of them, physics, biology, and chemistry, uh, each of them has father, has predecessor. So the most obvious for physics, the among the three, physics was actually the earliest science because the father of physics is astronomy. Since antiquity, like 2,000 years or even 3,000 years ago, humans have already been observing planets, stars, and movement, and start to make studies, coordinate of the planets, the movements. So astronomy was the early form of physics, and only later, until 15th century, Isaac Newton came out and developed something new called mechanics. Uh, Chemistry is interesting. Chemistry, the father the father of chemistry is a thing called alchemy. Okay, many people already ignore it today because it is known as pseudoscience. It is known as nonsense. However, I actually think alchemy is very underrated, especially its huge and marvelous contribution that led to the birth of chemistry. What is alchemy? I believe people who have played some video games or even read some fantasy books, lots of them talk about alchemy. Alchemy is this occult, mysterious activity. 1,000 years ago, there were a lot of alchemists. They call themselves alchemists. So this group of people, they were interested in two things in alchemy. First of all, they were interested in a thing called transmutation. So what they wanted to do is to convert anything that has no value into gold. So, for example, you convert lead, a kind of rough, no low value metal. They want to convert it into gold. And actually, the Western, Greek, and Roman people will keep trying that. They have a lot of recipes. They wrote a lot of books. They kept trying. And at the same time, I think those who are familiar with the Chinese, those who are familiar with Chinese history or Chinese mythology, I believe you must have witnessed something in some Chinese fantasy drama. For example, Journey to the West. There there are some people using a large furnace trying to develop some magical pill. So that is actually alchemy as well. Just now I said alchemists were interested in two things. Just now the first one, transmutation. The second thing alchemists were interested is to find a thing called philosopher's stone. uh, Philosopher's Stone is very famous because it was being used as the book title of J.K. Rowling's first book, Harry Potter. Philosopher's Stone is this magical thing. Once you found it, okay, you can turn everything into gold, but you could also achieve this immortality. The alchemists call it elixir of youth. Today we are still using the word elixir. That means it's reverberating. You regenerate your youthness. So alchemists wanted to do these two things. Of course, we all know they failed. Otherwise, we will be using that thing today. Today, in fact, alchemists are quite notorious. One thing, of course, the two things they wanted to do were quite ambitious, quite occult. Today people keep mentioning about logic, saying that alchemists were illogical. But we must comment the incredible belief and ambition. However, one thing people hate or despise alchemists is because they said that they say that actually the method used by alchemists were very unscientific. So today science is about this confirmation. You form a bold hypothesis, conjecture, then you run experiment to disprove it, and whatever that can't be disproven happens to be the nearest truth. So for example, relativity, so far we can't really disprove it, but Newtonian's gravity, there was already an experiment. I think it was a flight, people using aeroplane to display that Newtonian gravity doesn't work in cosmos scale. So the problem with alchemists is they were using the confirmation method. They were very unscientific. They just kept guessing very wildly without strict control experiment. But however, alchemy definitely, all the hard work of people for so many centuries definitely first of all, definitely it sparked the interest of people on chemicals, but also it led to the birth of chemistry. But in fact, today no one really remembers any alchemists because a lot of them happen to be quite occult, and at the same time most of them also were very interested in theology. One thing people don't really know is we all today call Isaac Newton the greatest scientist of all time because he developed physics, calculus, but little do people know that Isaac Newton actually only spent 30% of his time on physics. Another 60% of his time he actually spent on alchemy and theology. So even people as smart as Newton, he couldn't help but wanted to ride on the trend and really investigate on big mystery, which is alchemy and theology. And of course we all know he wasted time on both, but he achieved tremendous greatness in physics. That's about the history of chemistry. Another few things that are actually very captivating in the history of science is the number of theories people used to believe to be true, but today we all call it as pseudoscience. The obvious one is Earth is flat, because for an average human thousands years ago, how do you decide what is the shape of the Earth? Easy. You use your naked eyes. You look at the flat land in front of you. It's so obvious. Earth is flat. But of course, today we all know it's not true. We know Earth is spherical, is elliptical. It's not flat. And the way we prove that, there are numerous ways. For example, the first one is you go to a beach and you look at a ship voyaging, and if it is flat, the ship, once it voyage further and further, it should disappear immediately, because in a flat square the ship should fall immediately. But of course we know normally a ship will disappear gradually. All right, there's one of the way to prove it. The other way, of course, is to look at eclipse. I'm not too sure, moon eclipse or sun eclipse. You can see when Earth is in between moon and sun, the whole eclipse is circular. The border is circular. So this is one obvious thing that people back then believed to be true, but turned out to be wrong. Another famous thing is whether solar system is geocentric or heliocentric. That caused a lot of trouble because most people, especially the church, religious people, believe Earth is the center of the solar system. Of course, again, if you base on pure empirical observation, right, it seems convincing because every single day you see sun rising, setting. It seems to be sun revolving around us instead of the other way around. But of course, we all know Copernicus discovered that the opposite. The solar system is actually heliocentric. We are revolving around sun, not the other way. And then Galileo tried to promote this idea, and he got into trouble. But these two are quite famous. Okay, Earth is flat, and solar system is geocentric. However, there are something most people already forgot in history of science. One thing is the classical Greek element. Okay, so the Greek philosopher believed that life is generally made up of the four core elements. You can always see in a lot of even in a lot of fantasy fiction today, you talk about fire, earth, wind, and water. Okay, that obviously is proven to be not true. What is more fascinating, another theory people believe to be true, is fire is made up or being created by an element called phlegiston. Alright, today nobody remembers what is that, phlegiston, because back then it seems very magical. How could you generate by a spark on a hydrocarbon on a piece of wood? There will be fire, something so hot, generate light, energy, and enable you to cook. So people concocted this idea. Phlegiston is an mysterious element, exists in universe on Earth to be able to let you to create fire. Of course, today we know it's not true, because we know combustion requires three elements. You require oxygen, it requires fuel, that means hydrocarbon, things that is flammable, and oxygen, hydrocarbon, and the heat, friction. Okay, that's why you when you use a lighter, you actually try to generate friction. Another fascinating theory people think is human body. Okay, this is a realm of biology. Biology is very insanely complex, because it's very hard to isolate the cause and effect to run independent control experiment. Especially human bodies are very hard, because once you run an experiment on a person's body, you might cause him or her to die. But back then, in ancient biology, people believe that human bodies are made up of four bodily fluid. I can't remember exactly the full name. It has something like phlegmatic, sanguine, melancholy. So these four bodily fluids are regulated around. When you're unhealthy, that means one of the four bodily fluids happen to be in excess, jeopardize your health. Okay, this is a bit crazy, but today, because back then people didn't understand anatomy. You don't understand what does liver do, what does gallbladder do. So people concocted this theory. And of course, this relates to a wide medical practice in 16th century or 15th century called bloodletting. People believe that some disease, you just need to open a wound and let your blood flow non-stop to a large pail. It's nonsense, right? But people believe that. And in fact, infamously, George Washington, the first president of the United States, was killed by bloodletting. And let's see, I still have 1.5 minutes. Another thing people believe to be true is Aether. So people believe that it relates to Greek mythology, and I believe people have heard about this word Aether. It's in the superhero movie Thor. Ether is, people believe that light is made up of a mysterious element called ether. All right, of course, today is proven to be is disproven. This ether is very similar as phlegiston for fire, ether for light. Today we all know light is made up of photon. But actually it wasn't that obvious, because at the beginning people thought light is wave because of a double slit experiment. Then, however, people realized that light has duality. Besides wave light, it could also be particle light. So today I will just stop here. I will see you tomorrow. Goodbye.